right, it looks like most everybody has had an opportunity to get their votes in there, so let's go ahead and jump in. We have a lot of valuable information to share with you today, so let's go ahead and get started. Well, first of all, as customer service professionals, you know that serving your customer is imperative, and that's why you play such an important role in the success of your organization. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in, a consistent theme for providing great customer service is about making it easy for your customers to get their questions answered. And that can actually include a variety of communication channels that you offer to serve your customers. And that way you're serving them in the way that they want to be served. So we have the variety of channels, and let's go ahead and reveal the polling answers to see which communication channels are currently being used by the organizations that are represented by members of our audience today. So let's get a drum roll here and see the results. So it looks like we have, wow, yes, 80-ish, almost 90% of our audience is using phone or voice. No surprise there, that one's been around for a very long time. As well as email, looks like we're well over the 80% mark. Interesting, web forms were less than 50%, right around the 39% mark. So that may be an up and coming. Oh, we're jumping around a little bit, so maybe there are a few more out there. But that one definitely looks like it's getting a lower response than the others. Live chat, interesting. 58% of the respondents said that you're currently using live chat, and that's probably part of why you're here with us today. And the rest of you may be just kind of trying to get a little more information and trying to investigate that world of live chat to see if that might be a good channel to offer your customers going forward. And then social media, boy, another up and coming channel for communicating with customers. It looks like we're almost at 50% out there for our audience today. So interesting results, and no surprise that we do have quite a few people out there currently using live chat. So we are glad. Whether you're using it or considering using live chat, we are so thankful that you have made the time to join us in the workshop today. All right, so now let's take a look at the research because it shows that an increasing number out of all of these communication channels, an increasing number of customers of all ages are actually gravitating toward chat as their preferred communication channel. And you might think that those are just the younger customers that are more apt to prefer chat, but they are by no means the only ones. In fact, let's take a look at another study that showed that 56% of adults under the age of 35 prefer to use chat rather than picking up the phone. So look at that number. That is over half of the customers in this group. And then 27% of those 35 and older prefer to chat instead of using the phone. That's more than 1 in every 4 of the customers in this age group. So a vital ingredient to customer satisfaction is to maximize the use of the chat feature as a tool to very quickly and effectively communicate with these customers that prefer that as the channel of choice. So in today's Chat Essentials session, we're going to explore ways to provide exceptional customer service through the use of the chat, live chat, which is a very popular and fast-growing communication channel. It's also interesting to note that the results of a customer satisfaction survey recently measured customer satisfaction levels across the various communication channels. And check this out, live chat actually had the highest percentage of satisfied customers with a 92% satisfaction rate. Now that is impressive. So we've just proven that one of the benefits of the chat option is customer satisfaction. And satisfied customers, those are the people who get what they want when they want it. The nice thing about chat is that it's not only fast, but it can also be used to resolve a high percentage of issues in a single transaction. Another benefit is that agents are typically able to manage more than one chat at a time, and that leads to increased agent availability. And who doesn't want that? And also, by having agents that are available and customers who are satisfied, your entire organization's reputation is elevated. And when you have a great reputation in your industry, that leads to increased revenue, customer loyalty, possibly referrals, and positive reviews on social media. That all sounds pretty great, right? Now, chat is a fairly new tool, and it's really important to carefully consider the expectations of the chat customer. In other words, what do they want? Consumers were asked to select their top 2 reasons for choosing the chat feature and using that regularly. So let's take a look at the top reasons that were selected. The first, with 82% of the people in the survey selected quick response. Chat customers want answers that are right and right now. So it's important for them to receive some type of a response very, very quickly. And so in order to do that successfully, it's essential for your chat agents to have 2 things. The first is a working knowledge of the chat tool, including its various features, so that they're able to maneuver around that chat system very quickly. The second thing they want to have is the ability to type with speed and accuracy. If you want to have some fun after today's session, take a quick typing test and evaluate your skills. You can look at the job aids under links for Chat Essentials webinar in the job aids window at the bottom. That includes a link to some typing tests and some really fun videos related to chat. So you might want to check that out after our webinar today. The next highest response, 56% of the respondents selected have issues resolved in a single transaction. It is so important to carefully select who your agents are that are serving on the chat feature, so that they have strong technical skills, and also make sure you have processes in place to ensure that the customer's needs can be taken care of and it's easy to find acceptable solutions for them. So the issue is resolved in one attempt. Chat responses should be clear, accurate, and complete. Now, sometimes this may involve providing even additional relevant information that the customer didn't even request, anticipating that it will help resolve the customer's issue and possibly even prevent it from happening again in the future. And that demonstrates that you are a true advocate for the customer. Also, it's important to address every question or concern that the customer brought to your attention in the chat. There is nothing worse than ending the chat conversation and then having the customer realize, some of my questions or concerns that I had shared were never addressed. It could either make them think that we weren't paying attention or that we didn't have the answers and we're trying to be evasive. So it's important to answer all of the questions and requests. And then by excelling in the area of friendly, that's also very important. Customers want someone who is friendly to help them with their interaction. And that's where the soft skills come in. Working with a friendly agent, it's really extremely important to find ways to creatively build rapport with each and every chat customer. So there you have it, the 3 top selected reasons why people use chat. And if you can excel in those 3 areas, including quick response, resolving issues in a single transaction, and having friendly agents, you have a great opportunity to elevate your company's reputation. Now let's explore Chat Essentials, and we're going to include some tips and formulas and techniques to help you provide exceptional customer service and increase customer satisfaction the Bonfire way. And some of you are very familiar with the Bonfire way. We were formerly Phone Pro, but I know, seeing some of the names that are in attendance today, some of you have actually been through the Phone Pro training previously. And the good news is chat is not completely opposite of phone conversations. But let's start, because I know everybody probably has not experienced a Phone Pro or Bonfire training program previously. Let's begin by just taking a look at our own experiences as a customer. Now, as a customer, I'm sure you've had some great service experiences, both over the phone and possibly even through chat. And let's take a look kind of under a microscope and examine what makes these experiences so great. The first component of great service is how your transaction is handled. The transaction refers to the reason you are reaching out to that company, such as to ask a question about your account or to place an order. And to handle transactions with proficiency, it's important that the agent has strong technical skills for everybody that is serving the customers, whether it be by phone or through chat. So technical skills in order to accomplish the transaction are very key. Now, great service also requires the right balance between that transaction and the second component, which is the interaction. And what I mean by interaction, that refers to how the representative connects with you while they're completing your transaction. And that's the human side or the people side of the conversation. And in order to do this well, that's where exceptional soft skills are required. That interaction affects how you perceive you were treated, and so you don't walk away feeling like you just got the answer, but you didn't have a positive overall experience. So it's really finding that fine balance between the transaction and the interaction, using both technical and soft skills in every conversation. So the same holds true for your customers. What you like and what you experience, very similar to what your customers like as they go through their experiences. And if you find that proper balance, we're trying to create that positive experience for them. So again, the same two components that contribute toward a positive experience for a customer over the telephone, which a lot of you, we ended up with 93.9% of the respondents are helping customers over the phone, and those same components apply when you're using the chat tool. So some of you may not be that far away from possibly being able to enter into the world of chat if you haven't already. The only real big difference is that you are using text instead of your voice to make the customer's experience amazing. Also, it's interesting to point out that generally speaking, 80% of chat exchanges with customers are through the use of predetermined responses. Those responses have been decided in advance so that the agents can very quickly apply technical skills and address the customer's question or issue, and that helps them complete the transaction. It's really important to review, if you have any of those predetermined responses, review those regularly to make sure they are complete, make sure they're accurate, and be sure they are up to date. And I'm sure none of your companies ever has any changes. Not, right? So making sure somebody's in charge of reviewing those regularly. Also, incidentally, even though the predetermined responses are typically addressing the technical side, there may be some hidden opportunities to actually personalize some of those predetermined responses. And I encourage you to really challenge your agents to look for opportunities to do that. Let me give you an example. Let's say the customer has reached out to you in a chat and they're explaining that there's a blueberry stain on a pillow that they recently purchased from your company. Well, instead of referring in the predetermined response, it may say something about the, quote, damaged product. Instead of calling it the damaged product in your response, you have some very important knowledge to really customize this and personalize this response by really speaking to what they called it and addressing the blueberry stain on the pillow. So there are some hidden opportunities. If you're keep your eyes and ears open for those, you will have opportunities to even add some personalization to those predetermined responses. Now that accounts for 80% typically of chat exchanges, and that leaves a very, very important 20% that can be personalized to the individual chat customer. And if you skillfully use soft skills or those people skills during the chat, you can create that amazing interaction for every customer. That's a great opportunity. We really want to put that 20% to good use. Now we'll talk more about soft skills or people skills in a moment, but let's begin with that transaction side of the conversation. Now we mentioned the importance of having very strong technical skills in order to be able to handle each transaction very proficiently. In other words, it's important to know your stuff. And that includes having an excellent working knowledge of your organization's processes, your procedures, even the chat tool. We mentioned it's important to be adept at that. And also including the products and services that you support so that you can easily and very quickly recall the correct information to share with the customer. Now, it's not realistic to be expected to know or remember everything. There is no way, unless you are superhuman and have some superhuman powers, that you should be expecting that of yourself or any of the chat agents. But what you can expect is that they make sure to have the information readily available for quick reference right at their fingertips. Now let's also talk, as we're on transaction, let's talk about some tips to use text most effectively when you're applying those technical skills in response to the customer's request. Now, text exchanges potentially leave a lot of room for interpretation. And so, first of all, it's very important to be both clear and professional to avoid any confusion or any bad representation of your organization. Here are some text tips to keep in mind. First of all, use short, simple sentences. Something to keep in mind is that chat customers have indicated that they want quick answers. So the information should be concise, easy to read and understand, and also relevant to their individual situation. We've all had situations where we've reached out to a company and we've had a question, and the answer that we got back, you could tell that was a form answer, that was a canned response, and sometimes it didn't even address the issue or the concern that we had reached out to that company for. So it's very important to make sure that those responses are short, simple, easy to understand, and relevant. Another text tip is to be careful about using internal jargon. And internal jargon, those are terms that you and your coworkers probably use regularly. You may not even realize you're using those because you are familiar with those and you know what they mean. Now, similar to your phone and email communication, it's also important to avoid those the unknown jargon and also abbreviations, or sometimes they're referred to as acronyms. Those, again, are things that customers are not likely to know and to understand. Keep in mind, you do what you do for a living. They don't work for the same company, and they won't have the same knowledge when you get into those jargon and terms and some of the abbreviations. Now, on the other hand, sometimes customers will use abbreviations during the chat. And so it will be really helpful for you to know the meaning of some of the more commonly used abbreviations. For example, BRB for, you guessed it, be right back. Or TY for thank you. So those are some very common ones, and it's important to get comfortable with those. And incidentally, again, in our job aids section, or job aids window down at the bottom, you can see a few text abbreviations. So maybe you can challenge some of your teenagers, see if they know what those are, or if you see some that you don't know what they are, ask a teenager. I've learned that they usually have the answers. So again, making sure that we are familiar with the commonly used abbreviations that our customers may use, but also making sure that we are not using them and refrain from using them in our responses. Another text tip that will be helpful, it's important to spell correctly. Spell correctly. Customers deserve a response that is not chock full of a bunch of spelling mistakes. Among the features of your chat tool, you will find spell check, a very handy tool. And so be sure that you use that regularly. And then even with spell check, that is not fail safe. So you'll still, even after running spell check, want to do a quick proofread before you actually send the response to your customer. And that's going to help customers, first of all, clearly understand the message that's being conveyed, and also present a professional image for you personally as well as for your organization. Another text tip is to use proper punctuation. That's going to help the customer to be able to quickly read and comprehend correctly and understand the message that you're conveying. There is a big difference if you hear someone say something like, "It's time to eat, Grandpa," as opposed to, "It's time to eat, Grandpa." Apparently, sometimes punctuation can actually save a life. So be sure you use it appropriately. Another tip for texting is to check for correct grammar. And the nice thing with grammar, again, is that it involves following the set of rules that we all learned that determined how words are used properly. In other words, the rules of language. And if we follow those rules, it's not only going to help the customer comprehend what we're saying, it's also going to ensure that the message is both positive and professional as it represents the chat agent as well as your entire organization. All right, now let's talk about what happens after the chat customer has initiated the conversation. Now, it's certainly important to make a positive first impression in phone calls. And those of you that have been through the training for the phone call etiquette, It's also important in the chat conversation to follow the same goals, and the same strategy applies for both of these. So you have an advantage if you have taken the phone training courses. When customers contact you by phone, think about the things that we want to help them do or to know. First of all, we want to help the caller feel welcome. Secondly, we want them to know where they have reached. And third, we want to let them know who they are speaking with. So now let's take a look at these same examples or same goals that we can accomplish using the chat tool. The first step is to set up the appropriate system greeting. And this is a system greeting. It's what the chat customer actually sees before their record is assigned to an actual agent, or an agent actually joins the conversation. Depending on how your chat tool is set up, there may be some queuing. Also, that depends on the volume of chat conversations that you're getting from your customers. And the system greeting is designed to meet their expectation of a quick response, and it also helps them to feel welcome and helps them know where they have reached. Now, there are varying systems out there for chat tools. The tool that we use here at Bonfire, we like to have our system greeting say, "Welcome to Bonfire Chat." So they know they're actually in the chat system. There's no specific name of a person yet, and we've welcomed them. So that accomplishes those goals of helping them feel welcome and helping them know where they have reached. Now, after the system has greeted the customer, it's very important to continue the positive experience by having agents actually respond and start interacting within about 30 seconds or less after a customer's record has been assigned to them. That doesn't mean that they will be completely focused just on that conversation, but it is so important for them to start engaging with that chat customer within 30 seconds or less. Okay. Next, let's talk about how to apply interaction techniques to that remaining. Remember, we had 20% of the interaction of the chat exchange that we can actually personalize. So let's talk about how we can do that. Now, when you start the chat, after the system has greeted the customer, then it gets assigned to an agent, and then we start using the interaction piece. And when you start the chat, you want to use an opening statement, and that's going to include 3 key steps. The first one is a salutation. We recommend using good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. And also, some people wonder, well, whose time zone should I use? Because I know we've got Arizona out there today, we've got Michigan, we've got Indiana, and we've got many other locations. The good news is just use the time of day based on your location. Step 2 is to be sure to address the customer by name. There's no higher form of interaction than knowing somebody by first name. So depending on your chat tool, you probably already know the customer's name, and that information is often collected before the customer even connects to the live chat interface. So using that customer's name when it is available is a great way to personalize the conversation. So we're building this opening statement. We have good morning, Terry. And then the third step, remember the customers typically want to know who they are speaking to. So they may already have your name depending on your specific chat tool and the settings that you're using, but it's still a fantastic idea to identify yourself in order to personalize your response and to reassure the customer that they are really talking to a real person. Now in chat, customers can also enter information regarding what they need or what their question is, what they're inquiring about before the chat window is even connected. For example, I didn't get my receipt. Now, an important note, if they have said, I didn't get my receipt, we want to avoid asking, how may I help you today after our opening statement? They already told you how you can help them today. Then immediately follow that opening statement with a technique that we call acknowledge and take the lead. Now, some of you know the acknowledge and take the lead technique from your phone skills training, and this translates very nicely into the chat conversation. It blends the interaction, which remember is the people skills, with the transaction, which is the technical skills, and it's also a great way to control the conversation and help increase your efficiency. In the first part of this technique, the acknowledgement, simply restate the customer's need to let them know that they, first of all, have your full attention, and secondly, to confirm that you understand what they are asking. That's the interaction piece. It's kind of like eye contact in a face-to-face interaction. So in our example, the acknowledgement is, I see you need a copy of your receipt. Assures the customer that they have your attention now and that you are there to help them. Then wait for the customer's response. Now sometimes the customer will not have told you or indicated what they're needing. So in that case, it's perfectly acceptable to include, what can I help you with today? At the end of your opening statement. That acknowledges the customer, letting them know that they have your full attention, and it also assures them that you are now ready to assist them. Then simply wait for the customer's response. So in our example, perhaps they said, I need my receipt for a purchase I made this morning. So now we have the information of what they're calling about. So the second part of the technique now is to take the lead. And that take the lead is that's a technique that's used to ask a clarifying question or also to get additional information so that you can actually complete the customer's transaction. For example, would you like the receipt for the bubble bath or the rubber duck? Then wait again for the customer's response. For example, the customer may respond with, I would like a receipt for both items, please. Now that you have all the necessary information from your customer, there may be a delay or a pause while you're actually handling the customer's request, and that can cause the customer on the other end of that chat to wonder, are you there? Did you go home? Are you on a break? What's going on? So it's really important to, first of all, respond with a word or phrase that assures the customer that you're going to be able to help assist them with their needs. So the words like certainly, or sure, or I'll be glad to help you with that. And then use the briefly explain technique, and that's going to help you purchase silence. While you're handling the customer's request, it may get very quiet on your end of the chat with no interaction, but it lets them know that you are working on their request. Those of you that have attended the Customer Service Essentials workshop are probably very familiar with this technique. It comes in very handy to let them know what you're doing, and we're not leaving them hanging. So some examples could be, certainly, let me get that receipt for you. Or if your style, maybe you prefer with your style, sure, just a moment while I access that receipt for you. Or I'll be glad to help you with that, just bear with me while I locate the receipt. So that's a great way to purchase the silence. Now so far you have responded promptly to the customer. We've acknowledged their request and took the lead to obtain any necessary additional information. And then you resolved the issue or answered their questions, and you did all of that while maintaining a friendly interaction with the customer. In other words, you have now officially balanced very skillfully the transaction with the interaction in the chat. And that helps to elevate your organization's reputation. So great job. Now, after all of that, it's time to wrap it up and bring the chat conversation to a close. Now, the beginning and the end of the conversation, it's kind of like making a complete package for the customer. And think of the closing as if you are wrapping that gift of exceptional service that you just provided for that customer. So that's what the wrapping up is all about. Okay. Now, the first step when you're ready to wrap it up is to briefly summarize. And that's briefly summarize what occurred during the chat conversation to make sure that everybody's on the same page, there's complete understanding, and it's an opportunity to provide any additional clarity necessary. So an example might be, I've sent the receipt to your email, Terry, and it should arrive at any moment. So that summarizes what the results were during the chat. Or you could say, in a different situation, I'm glad we found the missing purchase order. I'll have that resent this afternoon. So the brief summary is really kind of managing their expectations and assuring them that there will be follow-up after the chat if that is applicable. Another example could be, thanks for adding those items to your order. I'm sure you will enjoy them. Showing enthusiasm for some additional items that they've ordered with you today. Now remember that chat customers want to have their issues resolved in a single transaction. So it's really important to issue what's called a closing offer of assistance, such as, is there anything else I can do for you today? Or is there any other question, or are there any other questions I can answer for you today? Or what else can I do for you today? Is there something else I can do for you today? Now, when you ask those questions as a closed-ended question, there are really only two answers. It's either a yes or a no. Now, I know some of you are probably thinking, but they're going to say yes if I ask them that, and this chat conversation will never end. Well, guess what? If the customer does have another request, they're not going anywhere until that's been addressed. And the other nice thing, if you do the closing offer, you actually have strategically moved the conversation forward more efficiently to get to the end of that call. It also might be comforting and helpful for you to know that most of the time when customers are asked, is there anything else I can do for you today? They will reply no. Many of us have done that. So sometimes you may even get a compliment like, no, but thanks for asking. You've been very helpful. They actually are thanking you for your help. Once the customer has confirmed that they have no other needs that need to be addressed at this time, it's then time to move on to the next step of the closing, which is a courtesy statement. We want to end the conversation with courtesy. Remember that friendly agent that everybody, that a lot of the respondents said that they are looking for, and that's why they're using chat. Something as simple as, we appreciate your business, Terry. Have a nice weekend. Or, thanks for contacting us, Terry. Have a good evening. There are many variations to customize the courtesy statement. We want to make sure it doesn't sound scripted. Some people like to say, have a nice day, and other people can't stand that one. So it's important to find one that you're comfortable with, and it's even great if you can customize that courtesy statement based on some things that maybe you learned about the customer during the chat conversation. For example, if you learn in the chat conversation that they are going to have a party, they're going to a party tonight, you could feel free to say, have fun at the party tonight, as your courtesy statement. On the other hand, if you didn't learn anything unique about the chat customer, you could simply tailor the closing to the day of the week or the time of the week. You could say, have a nice Thursday, or enjoy your weekend, or I hope you have a great week. And those tend to sound much more personal to the caller because so many places will say, have a nice day, repeatedly, and it can become very robotic and almost insincere. So just be sure to pick something that is appropriate and it sounds genuine to you. You want to make sure it fits your style. Now you might think we're done, but there is still one more very important final step, and that is to exit, exit the chat, not fast, but last. And this is the way to really put a bow on the package. Some agents have a tendency to really close the chat very quickly because they're juggling other chats and it's a very fast-paced environment. But once the customer says there's nothing else the agent can assist them with, that agent sometimes is ready to exit the chat. But the danger in doing that and disconnecting too quickly is that customer may have a last-minute question and they see the dialogue close before they even had a chance to respond. Instead, be sure to type your courtesy close and then just wait a few moments. You know, inside your head, count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just wait a few moments before exiting the chat. Sometimes the customer might even be trying to respond with a compliment about the great service that you provided them, and you certainly do not want to miss that. So there you have it. First, you've satisfied your customer's desire for a quick service response by setting up that system greeting. Next, you used your tried and true Bonfire Chat Essentials formulas, including your friendly opening statement, acknowledging the customer in a friendly manner, taking the lead to kind of guide the conversation to the conclusion, and resolving any issues in a single transaction. And then you wrapped it up to create a positive, friendly, lasting impression. Well, this concludes our workshop today, and I just want to thank everybody for attending. We definitely would be thrilled to hear any comments. We'd love to get your feedback, so feel free to type any comments or questions in the chat window, and we will circle back and be addressing those if they have not already been addressed. And also remember that this Chat Essentials topic will be available both on demand and also as a module in our on-site customized workshops in November. You can also, if you want any additional information, I invite you to visit our website at www.bonfiretraining.com and get more information, or just reach out to us and we would love to talk to you.